and the cat. Okay, so out again today, and unfortunately a bit of a disappointment on the Wales front. It's not going through. So yeah, a bit gutted about that. You know, I was really looking forward to that. But basically, for it, I mean, I'm mortgage free, rent free, I own the house outright. And the offer I put on the table was somebody I know very well. You know, good friends. But I put the offer on the table and I did basically a legal arrangement. It's called an options arrangement. I purchased online a legal formal options pack. And basically it stipulates what needs to be done, what guarantees are in place and stuff like that. So I was going to ask for a deposit, an initial payment, which would buy my caravan, leave me with a little bit of cash over the top, just to get a couple of things done, like get the decking put around it, buy the little shed, you know, to put my e-bike in, and stuff like that. And it wasn't going to be a problem with the payment or anything. They said they could get the money together in a short amount of time. With a holding fee which I put on the caravan, that obviously be taken off when I own the caravan. And then on a yearly basis pay me so many £1,000, and that'll be for 10 years. At the end of 10 years would mean then that through a conveyancing company I would then hand over the deeds. I get their name put on, my name taken off. Come on. Like I say, it's a legal document. Come on. All above board and everything else. But quite rightly, the person I was selling to said, well, I just want to check with the solicitor that this is okay. So I said to them, that's fine. I don't mind you getting advice. Obviously, you know, you're paying out for something, you want to make sure it's all above board and everything else, which I knew it was. But, you know, I didn't want to involve solicitors because I know what solicitors can be like. You know, if they can put a spanner in the works for anything, they will. And I know this because they're all in it together, they all make money. You know, they all sit down and talk to each other. Go on. You know, and they're just in it for the money at the end of the day. So my friend went off to the solicitors, come back, and basically told me not to accept it. So I said, well, why is that? He said, the only way to accept it is if I can get assurance that I'm going to have the house at the end of it. I said, yeah. I said, I've said in the contract that on that date, the deeds will be handed over to you. You know, and we both sign it, it's a legal document. So, she goes, no, what he wants, my solicitor said, for assurance, we want to sign the deeds over to me now. So that when I start paying, I'm paying deposit, I've got something I could say, well, it's a guarantee that you're going to hand the house over. Which, okay, I get from the point of view their solicitor may want to be protecting their client, of course. But then, what assurance do I have, once I sign those deeds over, that they're going to pay me? Yes, they may pay me the initial deposit, but what's guaranteeing? And it's not that I don't trust my friend, this is not between my friend and me. We know each other, we've known each other for a long time, we trust each other, so it's not that. So, I said, well, you know, it doesn't work like that. You know, in a sense, you see, like, I'm renting the property to you over a 10-year period, at which at the end of it, you're going to own the property. You know, you're not paying, as people say with a rent, paying in dead money, you're going to get nothing out of it afterwards. You are. You're going to get the house. That's what this contract says. You know, I said to her, well, if you go and rent a house tomorrow, the landlord doesn't hand the deeds over to you because they become, you know, compromise themselves then. You know, the only thing the landlord has over you is, apart from contractual agreements, is the fact if you don't pay, you leave. You get turfed out. The bailiffs will come and they get you out. And that's the standard sort of policy. You know, it's the same, if you buy anything, if you went into a garage forecourt today, saw a nice car, and let's say you got £5,000 in the bank, and the car's 10,000, you know, you don't offer 5,000, they give the car, you drive away with the promise to pay the other £5,000 later, and you drive away with the logbook. Same with a mortgage. You have a mortgage, you sign a contract stating you're going to pay. If you don't pay, it's the bank that owns that building until the last payment is made. And you know, it's a guarantee for the person who owns something that they're going to be paid for it. In this case, I own the house. I'm going to allow you to live in it. I'm going to allow you to do whatever changes you want. It's not like a typical landlord agreement or anything else. You know, you can do it up, renovate it, do whatever. As long as you pay me that money, that's it. I don't really care. But their solicitor wouldn't agree to that. Said, no, I want to take all the assurances away from the owner of the property, who owns that property, and give them all to his client, which in my eyes is completely wrong and completely stupid. Nobody does that. You know, you have to remember, it's me which is selling something. I want to guarantee that I'm going to be paid for it. You know, it's not the other way around. Where they say, we want to buy something off you, you're going to pay bits and bobs for it. But we want full legal entitlement to it before we pay you anything. It doesn't work like that. So after a little bit of to and fro between my friend and everything, he said, well, that's what my, you know, he said, that's what my solicitor has said. That's what we've got to do. So, you know, I wasn't born yesterday. Come here then, come in. You know, I'm not going to agree to that where I've got no or nothing behind me. And yes, you could take it to court, you could go through this, but that's going to cost thousands of pounds. You know, who's to say? No. In all fairness, I trust my friend. I know what they're saying is genuine. I know that they want the house for various reasons. And I would like them to have the house because I know they would have looked after it. They would have made it a family home. It works better for them and the parents are local to look after the young baby while they go back to work. So everything is there. So I know they definitely wanted it. But unfortunately, you know, through the, I would call it probably stupidness of their solicitor, the arrogance, they've listened to the solicitor. They won't sort of budge at the moment. So unfortunately it's a no. And initially I said, well, you know, I don't like that idea. I was a little bit surprised what the solicitor said, but I said, okay, well, what's the process to do that? And they said, well, what we need to do is everybody go with IDs. I've got to prove where, not me, as in my friend's got to prove where the money's coming from. We've got to show our IDs. They'll then start the transfer process and they'll write a contract saying, we guaranteed we will pay you. And that's all well and good. And again, this is nothing about my friend. But who's to say that in a year's time, they might be falling on a bit of financial hardship and decide to just leave the country. I've got no claim on the house and I've only received a deposit for it. I'm going to get no more payments. they could leave the country. And those ways around it legally, but they could even sell it and again leave the country or do whatever, and it's going to leave me compromised. So the actual thought that they can do that is absolutely beyond me. So unfortunately I've had to say no to it, with good reason. I'll ask anybody. Somebody tipped up to buy something expensive from you. I said, we'll pay you in instalments. Would you let them do that? Of course you wouldn't. You're going to keep hold to it until you've got all your money, and then they can have it. And it's as simple as that. That's how it should be. So, what I've got to do now, I sent an email explaining everything I just said in a very nice manner. Not heard anything back from them. That's my friend. I did say to my friend, look, the problem is as soon as you get solicitors involved, things will start getting a little bit more, not unfriendly, but, they don't see trust, they don't see friendships. They're just doing it for one thing. And sometimes the things they say can hurt friendships. I believe in a lot of cases, when people split up and they go through a divorce, it's the solicitors themselves that actually cause the real hatred between two people. Yes, you might fall out of love with somebody. Somebody may cheat or whatever. Doesn't mean to say they can't get on. When my ex left me, but we get on. We get on fine. She took me down to even see the caravan because she wants the best for me. And yes, we will get divorced. There's going to be no going back. We know that. We've agreed that. We also know if we get solicitors involved, it will start turning nasty because that's the way solicitors are. And then people see it personally, start resenting the other person when it's not them, it's the solicitors. They are vultures. They just go round, they get the law degree or whatever, doesn't mean to say they actually know the law, doesn't mean to say they've got your best interests at heart, because they haven't. All they've got at heart is the bank account. How long can they draw this out for? How much money can they take? When my dad died and I inherited another house, we had to go through probate. I was the one doing all the work. All the solicitor had to do was post the death. So if anybody thought they had a claim, they could make it. Give me some forms. I had to go away and do all the work and find everything out. then the money would go into their account, and they keep it for as long as they possibly can because they earn interest on it. You know, they don't actually have to do anything. You have to do the work. They just give you the forms. And it's costing you hundreds of pounds for them to simply send a letter. You know, solicitors hard. When my dad banked was literally across the road from them. But he insisted on sending a letter to the bank at 250 quid or whatever. Waited for a reply, which typically took a couple more weeks. So they could just earn money from it. I ended up sacking one solicitor because quite a bit of time had gone past. So I emailed her. Didn't get a reply. So I called her. I said, can you give us some update? What's going on? And she was so rude on the phone. Well, I'm going to get nothing done if you keep calling me and pestering me. I could be working on this now while I'm talking to you. And so I just rung a manager, but I contacted by email, said I want her sacked, or I want to sack her. I'm not being spoken to like that, and she's not doing anything about this. It's not moving forward. And he then got involved. I bloody hate him. But yeah, I'm very disappointed now, you know, about Wales. You know, it's a perfect little caravan for me. Perfect location, everything else worked out. You know, and I think my friends got to realise I was doing it at a huge discount for them. And they've now lost the option to own their own house at, again, a huge discount. Something they could afford, something they wanted. You know, I'd set up a legal contract, which they initially said, yeah, we could do that, looks great. For the solicitor, because of what they personally think, told them no. They're not willing to accept it. And instead want to go down a route where they take my deeds off me, give them to somebody else, having only been, well, not quite, half paid for the house, leaving me no, or very little to no, security whatsoever. So unfortunately, you know, I can't do that. And like I say, out of it, I've lost what I wanted, which is a caravan, more or less on the beach, lovely part of the country, nice quiet life, cheaper way of living, and I've lost all that. And a friend even said, when they phoned them to find how long it would all take, he had to go to them and said, I'm too busy to be dealing with you right now, and everything else. I had to apologise on the phone to them. There's also the fact it's quite clear they've not bothered to take the time to read the documents properly. There's a couple of things the friend pointed out that he said, I said, it's written there. So it shows the arrogance of this idiot. But, okay, I remember not getting what I want. It was a bigger loss to my friend, unfortunately. I do feel sorry for them. Alright, I'm going to end the video there because it's getting a bit noisy now. So I'll catch you later.